is having a great day. I happen to be struggling with allergies today. I don't know what it is, but if I sound a little nasally, it's because I am. At any rate, one of the things I was thinking about recently, it kind of started with the way that the redistricting efforts are kind of got kicked off. And it was around this idea that Texas, just out of the blue, on the word of Trump, decided to redistrict off cycle. That is not the case. But it kind of leads into this broader topic of when Democrats do things out of the norm or they break norms, it tends to backfire a little bit. And there's a couple cases, examples actually, that I wanted to cover. This kind of starts back in 2013 under the Obama administration, where Democrats were having a tough time getting nominations through, so they decided they wanted to use the nuclear option and eliminate the 60 vote filibuster for most executive branch and lower court nominees. That opened the door to the following year when Republicans took control. Republicans extended that to include SCOTUS Supreme Court justice nominations. And so by Democrats removing that 60 vote threshold, that filibuster, ultimately opened the door to Republicans saying, okay, well, then we'll just extend this to SCOTUS nominations. And that's ultimately how the Republicans ended up getting 3 SCOTUS nominations. Had Democrats not changed or used the nuclear option in 2013, Republicans wouldn't have extended it to SCOTUS, and Republicans wouldn't have had 3 additional justices under Trump. So very interesting from that perspective. If you go back a little bit further, we look at in 2010 the ACA, better known as or also known as Obamacare, was passed. While Democrats, I think, in theory, thought that they were doing the right thing, ultimately the rest of the country decided that it was a horrible thing. So much so that Democrats lost 63 House seats and then 6 Senate seats. It was the largest single party loss since 1938. And mainly the driver of that was the fact that all of our insurance premiums skyrocketed, and people were not happy about that. While, again, it might have had good intentions, on the backside, it just backfired for Democrats. I believe the Republicans ended up holding the House until 2018, and then they, obviously lost it. But then we look at the Texas redistricting. Interestingly enough, the Texas didn't kick off this kind of redistricting effort, or I would say redistricting as it's being framed, which is a partisan effort to increase Republican seats. While, yes, gerrymandering, redistricting generally leads to gerrymandering and a better outcome for the party in power, there is definitely a concerted effort from Democrats to want to gerrymander out all Republicans from their districts, regardless of how close the actual margins are. So I was looking at how many Democrat how many states have zero representation for Republicans, and then what the ratios are of actual voting. So there are 7 states, basically almost all of New England, but it is Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and New Mexico. I probably wouldn't count Delaware. There's only one House seat there. Um, but interestingly enough, that state's relatively close. But the rest of these states, I'll just go through it. So Connecticut, if we look at the voting margins, it's a D plus 14. There's 5 seats, 0 Republicans. Delaware is a D plus 14. There's only 1 seat, but it's, I mean, it's a very close, it's a very close state. Hawaii is a D plus 23, kind of expanded there. It's, there's only like 37% Republicans there. There's 2 seats in Hawaii. Massachusetts is a D plus 25. It's got 9 House seats. That means like 36% of the last election went to Trump. Yet there are 0 Republicans. New Hampshire is a very close state. It's a D plus 2. A D plus 2. The last election was 50 to 47. And it's got 2 seats. No, none of those are Republican. New Mexico has 3 seats. It's a D plus 6. No Republicans. Rhode Island has 2 seats, which is interesting because Delaware has 1 at any rate. It's all population, but it's a D plus 13. The last election, 55-41, Harris over Trump, but there's 0 representation. But I don't want to leave out Republican states where there are 0 Democrat representation. Alaska, Arkansas, Idaho, Iowa, Nebraska, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Utah, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Now, many of these are significant Republican states. If we look at Wyoming, West Virginia, Utah, South Dakota, Oklahoma, and North Dakota, they're at a minimum Republican plus 30. And so it's significant. Where I think there is probably a little consternation is, around Alaska, Iowa, Nebraska. Some of these states are much closer, but we're not talking about all of these states. Like Alaska has 1, Arkansas has 4, Idaho has 2, Iowa has 4, Nebraska 3, North Dakota 1, Oklahoma 5, South Dakota 1, Utah 4, West Virginia 2, Wyoming 1. I mean, these are significantly different than the New England states. And it's just interesting because since so getting back to Texas, right? So Texas, after the 2020 census, came out with a new map. That map was challenged. So in 2021, they came out with a new map. Ironically, given the new SCOTUS decision, it was challenged under racial gerrymandering. And so they weren't actually able to put out their map. Then they ended up just changing the map in which they put out, which is the one that they ended up putting forward. So from 2021, when they originally put out their map after the 2020 census, which got delayed because of COVID, they then put out their map in 2026 after court challenges and other things were happening. So then what do Democrats do? But then they tried to gerrymander Virginia, which is essentially a 50-50 state, to remove all but 1 Republican seat out of it. That backfired spectacularly. It is now stayed. They're not able to certify that election to then get that map approved. We'll see how that plays out. Looks like it's not going to be in their favor. But then simultaneously, SCOTUS makes a decision yesterday or last week regarding Louisiana's map, and racial gerrymandering in general. Now, the interesting thing is that a lot of the ways in which Democrat maps are drawn, and why they hold seats, is because of racial gerrymandering. You can see this in Illinois. You can see this in other states. And so, what's going to happen now, because Democrats ultimately challenged Texas and ended up doing a lot of stuff that, whatever. At any rate, they challenged Texas. They complained that Texas put out their map. Texas wasn't able to put out their map after the 2020 census. They just now put it out. Democrats framed it that this was a Trump thing and whatever. But now that Democrats showed that they want to gerrymander the hell out of states like Virginia and California and other places, Republicans are like, well, screw this. Okay, fine. If you want to play that game, let's go ahead and do this. And so we'll see how it plays out. I think the thing that Democrats need to understand is that there are just more Republican districts across the area. Most of you have probably seen the map of the U.S. after elections. It's like what Trump won versus what Kamala won, or what Joe Biden won versus Trump, or what Trump won versus Hillary Clinton. The entire map is red. Like, the cities are blue, the map is red. And so I don't think it was in the best interest of Democrats to play that game, because ultimately there are more Republican states and there are going to be more Republican districts, which means there's going to be more Republican House seats. But even if we fast forward, there's some writing on the wall of what Democrats want to do next. And they kind of foreshadowed this a couple years ago when they went to go remove the filibuster for basically passing anything. And there were two Democrats who did not vote with them, who are now no longer Democrats in the Senate. One was Kirsten Sinema, and the other one was Joe Manchin of West Virginia. And so had they voted with Democrats, the filibuster would have been removed, and things would be very interesting right now. And would have been very interesting under the Joe Biden presidency. There's also this push to increase the number of seats in the Supreme Court because they're mad that essentially Republicans are going to hold the majority for a while. There's also a push to make certain places states like DC or Puerto Rico, so that they can gain more seats. Now, removing the filibuster would essentially backfire on them because if Republicans hold the House and the Senate, then passing things will be very easy. It won't require bipartisan consent for a lot of this stuff, or relative bipartisan consent, which is bipartisan is basically like 4 or 5 Democrats flipping to vote with Republicans on things, but still nonetheless bipartisan. So there's that side. So everything, which would be nice, but the filibuster, needs to be there for protectionary reasons, I would say at this point. But then if you look at SCOTUS increases, like if you remove the filibuster, Republicans take over, then Republicans can pass whatever they want. And there's a high likelihood that Democrats are going to do this. They tried it already. They had two. They had Cinema and Manchin abstain or vote against it. They If they increase SCOTUS seats, then Republicans can just get into power and do the exact same thing, right? So then we fall in this like weird slope of democracy is just kind of over at that point, um, which I don't really want. But ultimately, I'm kind of on the fence right now about Republicans removing the filibuster to pass the SAVE Act, um, and get a bunch of their nominees across and do all this other stuff. But at the same time, I think there are norms that need to be maintained. At any rate, it'll be very interesting to see what Democrats do if they come back into power. But back to the redistricting, it's highly likely that in a regular cycle, Democrats would have won the House on an off year election. But given their heavy push for redistricting, which has made all of these other states move on redistricting their own, and then the SCOTUS decision about racial gerrymandering, it's highly likely that Republicans could pick up 13 seats in this upcoming election, maintain the House, also not lose the Senate. If you look at the betting markets, it's looking like people are putting their money on Republicans holding the Senate. So it could be highly likely that Republicans hold both the House and the Senate. They pick up more seats. And it may be a very long time, if that happens, before Democrats ever win the House again, because we have the upcoming census in 2030, which is going to favor Republican states. I live in one where people have exited out of the New England region or the Northeast to move south. Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, Texas are all going to pick up seats, as well as some other states. New York, California, Virginia, these places, at least New York, California for sure, and Massachusetts are going to be losing seats. Um, and so those are Democrat seats because there's only Democrats in those states. And so, for the most part, and so it could be a very long time before Democrats hold power again in the House, let alone the Senate. Presidential elections will sway back and forth, but also once those reapportionments happen and the other southern states pick up more electoral votes, it's going to become harder and harder for Democrats to win there as well. But at any rate, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Am I off base here? I just wanted to present some of the facts and some of the things that have been going on. But comment below, like and share, and keep believing that the best for America is still ahead. Peace out.